There are stages in the history of Nigerian literature and its growth. There was the pre-independence, a period of writing that was devoted to what we normally term period of cultural nationalism, literature in support of search for freedom, search for independence, and so on.
There was that sense of a community of artists, of writers, of performers, of, the actors, the graphic artists. They were all part of that community of artistic responses to society.
It was called SONA, Society of Nigerian Authors. And just when we thought we were going to take off, they had the coup.
The government is in the hands of General Aguiyi Ironsi, the army commander. The coup now begins to look more and more like a straightforward military revolt against corruption in government, and one that's likely to last.
The association could not continue.
Unfortunately, the Civil War came. The Civil War lasted, almost 3 years. At the end of it, in 1972, things were just in pieces all over the place.
At last, with the capitulation ordered by General Ojukwu successor, the bloodbath of Biafra seems to be at an end.
Yet, over that period, a lot of writers had emerged.
The aftermath of that war brought a lot of psychological distress, and writers wrote very painfully from that. Soyinka wrote, the man died, which was a very bitter expose of political leadership and the forces that engaged him. Younger writers like Iyayi and so on wrote about violence and so on. Achebe even brought poetry out, although Achebe was more or less a novelist of international renown, but he started writing short because the period of the war had such an impact on him that he could only write short things like poetry.
Chinua Achebe was very concerned that there was no organizational system that could bring these people together.
We had to resuscitate the association. So we called the meeting of would be ANA, Association of Nigerian Authors. We changed the name. Maybe somebody felt that the former name brought us bad luck the first time.
So in 1980, he invited quite a lot of us to Nsukka to simply speak of these things. At the end of his presentation and the 2 or 3 days that we stayed in Nsukka, a group of us were asked to prepare for the first conference, which took place in 1981. So it was at that point that the Association of Nigerian Authors, ANA, was set up.
By and large, Achebe's gesture in Nsukka after the war has led to a very formidable association, umbrella body for Nigerian writers at home and abroad.
Achebe expanded the frontiers of literature in Nigeria, or the frontiers of literary association in Nigeria. Achebe was very instrumental in the announcement of several talents into African literature. Achebe, we can say, in quote, discovered so many African writers, and he was particularly interested in them getting recognition, getting published. So that is that same spirit that Achebe had in mind to look into Nigeria and say, look, let me and my contemporaries come together and see how we can help other writers to grow in this country.
We were very, very conscientious people, and we had a very good leader in Chinua Achebe. I've always believed in him. He was, sorry, I can't think of him in past tense. He was a very good leader.
He was a definitive figure in Nigerian writing and African writing. And you see, the day he died, so immense was my shock. Because by the time I grew up, I already met Chinua Achebe. He was already an old man. So there's this sense that you don't expect that he will die, you know? It's like a tree in the center of the village, which from when you're small, you grow up, the tree is there. You're a young man, the tree is there. You are now in your 50s, the tree is still there. And suddenly one day, that tree falls. That's how definitive he was to Nigerian literature.
Is it true that your footprints were seen on the dusty path to the farm, but the searchers went and they could not find you? Only the lingering scent under the palm tree and the sound of a man whistling, but fading into the bush. Was it you, Nani? Is it true? Stood up for us in this contest for dignity, answered those who said we were savages without history, took the language of the oppressor, bent it to the service of the oppressed, tell them to be silent. It is this man that has passed. For me, Achebe gave us the right to write our own stories. You know, a story like Things Fall Apart was so groundbreaking, not because, you know, there was anything really about the story. It was about the audacity to write it at all. You know, to tell the world that my story is relevant. You know, it is not niche, it is not cliche, it is relevant, it is part of human civilization and human culture. You know, so I like that, and it's a confidence and courage that I, as a modern Nigerian writer, I'm imbued with it.
Before Anna, that Achebe established with our writers, you know, operating their various regions in Nigeria. But they now came together under the same platform, writers from the north, east, west, and south. And from then to now, Anna has been able to unite Nigerian writers. When we're uniting them, letting us to have an interface and exchange of ideas across the country.
At the initial stage, if you were not published, you were not a member per se. You could be an associate member, you could be a student member. But the constitution was amended to allow people who have manuscripts that are worthy of being called writing to have access into membership.
Some of the objectives, one of them says to encourage and promote Nigerian literature, to encourage recollection, recording and transcription, and to make these literatures available to the public, to promote the interests of authors in all that concerns their profession and well-being, and to protect their rights as authors, and to encourage the commitment of authors to the ideals of a humane and egalitarian society.
I was elected as the first Secretary General. Chinua Achebe was the first president. Immediately, what we tried to do was to begin to spread the message throughout the country in two forms, that we should have an ANA branch in every university, and we should have an ANA branch in every state. To then say that each state must be able to vie for hosting the annual conference. That is how the ANA annual conference has gone around the country.
I knew so many states in this country because I was a member of ANA. I joined ANA. I had to go for conventions. And when I became General Secretary, I had to travel around the whole country to organize events for our association. I could recollect my first time of entering Port Harcourt. And when we entered Port Harcourt in the evening, I was shocked to see so many people there. And I said, so these people is also as populated as Lagos. And then Kano too. My first time in Kano was because I went there to organize a workshop on behalf of ANA. And I collected, this was many years ago, and when I entered Kano, I was shocked at the thick population. So, apart from my writing that has improved, I've had a lot of exposure.
Omotoso, who followed, and Femi Osofishan were also they were with Achebe in this early period. and they consolidated on the Achebe's dream, and they extended it in their own very remarkable ways to other parts of the country and to other associations and other persuasions, literary persuasions.
The first thing we did that was quite a major intervention was that we organized a conference which brought South African writers to Nigeria to meet writers from the rest of Africa and from the Caribbean. We collaborated with the French embassy in Lagos to we invited 16 writers from South Africa, English-speaking and French-speaking countries. We also started campaigns to get newspapers to have a book review page or literary page at least once a week. So we did a lot of that, to the point that even today, you will find that each newspaper will have a page, a literary page. It doesn't matter how miserable it is or how elaborate it is.
Then you now get to the period of activism, the period of Kensarawiwa, Odia Ofemu, and those periods were the periods when Nigeria was under very brutal military dictatorship. And they played their role in terms of fighting off dictatorship, in terms of facing up to injustice, in terms of radicalizing the writer's body to toe the path of egalitarianism. And mind you, when Achebe founded ANA, one of the very basic planks which Achebe used in founding this association is that this association was in every point and time fight for the building of an egalitarian society. What does that mean? At any point in time, this association must now be found on the side of the oppressors. This association must not be found on the side of those who are cheating the people. At every time and age, ANA must be found on the path of propriety, justice, and equality. Now, with that foundational ideal by Achebe, I think when Odia Ofemu and Kensarawiwa were to act, they knew what to do.
The popular or very important cases where members of ANA intervened include that of Mama Vatsa, when he was accused of having been involved in a coup.
Maman was a very, very close friend. He had done a lot of work within the army to encourage writing and reading, especially poetry.
And he did all this because he was a poet himself. And he also encouraged, seriously, writing in the Nigerian military. If you see any military man writing today, Basa was the one who encouraged them as young officers, or even as officers that are in the junior ranks, to write. Basa went out of his way to make soldiers to write poetry, to tell their experience of war and whatever in creativity.
It was a very terrible experience. We were waiting in that 1986 or whatever. We were waiting at a hotel, Meridian, for Soyinka, Clark, and Achebe to come back from their visit to the Dodam barracks to extract a promise from government. When they came and announced that they were not going to be killed, there was the joy, the excitement. Only one while after, for us to just bring the new flash that Mama Basa has been killed.
Unfortunately, we got to know that he had been shot 45 minutes previous to their meeting with the head of state, who still promised to look into things.
It was a betrayal that writers should not forget very easily.
Ken's issue was, different in a way.
Sariwa was incapacitated, was incarcerated. Bana, of course, did our best to mediate through our writings, through our interactions, and that. Of course, he was released. But of course, when his fight now became so-called political, when he was now fighting for the Boni people and their rights, and fighting with all resources available to him, government became lethal, it became murderous.
I accuse the ethnic majority who run Nigeria of practicing genocide against the Ogoni people. I accuse the oil companies which prospect for oil in Ogoni of encouraging genocide against the Ogoni people. I accuse Shell and Chevron of practicing racism against the Ogoni people because they do in Ogoni what they do not do in other parts of the world where they prospect for oil.
We organize several activities all over the country by writing letters, by protesting, by reading, by appealing to international bodies to save Kesara's life.
With the United Nations, we formed bodies in relationship with his family and people to ensure that Sarua was released and that the despotic government of Abacha was isolated, was sanctioned by the Commonwealth, by United Nations, by also body, but did not impede their intention to kill him. And I thought again that was a huge blow and a major dent in the relation between government and writers.
So, in a way, we can say that our writers have not shied from being part of the struggle that has created the country. But one wished that it wasn't like that.
A very topical issue, or I can say even a debatable issue among writers, is to determine the kind of relationship that should exist between writers and politicians or governments. Even though I see the role of writers as, in quote, conscience of the society, a set of people who should regularly putting leaders on their toes. I also believe that as members of this great nation, as citizens who pay their tax, who can vote and be voted for, writers also should demand something from government. Because all over the world, arts, literature, and all that relates to it always benefit a lot from government.
I was accused of pulling the association too close to government because the Ministry of Arts and Culture has funds for organizations, and I used to insist that whoever was minister had to do it.
The first thing that we must do is to bring to the consciousness of government that the endowment of the arts is a constitutional right of writers. It is there in our constitution.
I don't know what government is doing. Government gives money to musicians, but the people who taught them, whose book they read to become what they are, they don't remember.
It does not stop us from criticizing government when it needs to be criticized. It does not make us a government lackey, and it does not make us less of good writers if government supports our activities. I think there should be a line drawn between propaganda and writing your literature which you think is normal.
Recently, a writer of ours, Nengi Laha from Bayelsa, he also ran into trouble because of a publication that he had put together. And the association rallied around to try and get him out of prison, and he was successfully removed.
So I think, by and large, the ANA has done well enough in taking care of the interests of members.
After that period, when we entered into democracy in 1999, in 1999, 97, 98, 99, when dictatorship was easing, people like Abubakar Gimba Olu Obafemi consolidated on the effort of the past president and introduced some kind of modernity to the operation of the association. Gimba was remarkable for registering the association in the Corporate Affairs Commission. Gimba also put some very basic structure of a modern association in ANA. Olu Obafemi went a step ahead by intellectualizing the operation of the association, by also improving on the price profile, the profile of the prices. Olu Obafemi was able to up our prices from the price sum of 10,000 naira to 100,000 naira. That happened during his time.
Now, I remember before I came, there were about 3-4 prices. During my time, we introduced 7 new prices, especially 5 with NNDC. Then we got Atiku and so on rural literature, on Chilean literature, which really inspired writers to bring out their works, to submit them. It increased the spirit of competitiveness, creative competitiveness. The creative burst could be taken along with the growth of prizes in its own right.
The Association of Nigerian Authors literary prizes are largely held at 2 levels, at the national level and at the state level. At the national level, it's open to the general country. Members from any part can actually participate. But at the state level, there are largely limitations to it, as it usually has to cover just the people at that particular state branch.
I was reading through yesterday and I saw prices of 200 naira and I was laughing. I said, how can you really have been giving people such small prizes? But actually, the whole idea is to show appreciation of what somebody has done. Nowadays, of course, the money comes in useful, but by and large, I think the whole purpose is to make people look forward to something. That this thing I've been doing for years, maybe I'll get something tangible out of it.
Now, if we have only sort of awards that are sort of international or backed by international organizations, he has a way of shifting the focus of the local writer from his local environment, and he begins to sort of write into the sensibilities of these sort of external funded or backed awards. So when you have a local organization that is really grassroots, funding an award or championing an award, it also helps to condition in a healthier way what writers are writing about who are targeting that particular award.
Then at the period of Wole Soyinka, when Wole Soyinka became president after Olu Obafemi, Wole Soyinka, in a way, did a lot of programs and projects that touched the grassroots of this country. People will tell you that the period of Wole Soyinka as president of ANA was a period in which every part of this country was carried along. It was a period in which so many remarkable novel activities were done. It was a period when some very grand celebrations were recorded.
We were able to celebrate the 20 years of the Nobel Prize in Literature. Wole Soyinka, who did this one at the University of Ife. It was a very successful event where we brought in another Nobel laureate, Nadina Godima from South Africa, the late Nana Godina. We were able to attract international writers to that event.
In that same period, Things Fall Apart of 50 that shook the whole world started in Nigeria. And it was a remarkable celebration across the country.
Again, we were able to bring into the country a lot of international writers and also exposed our young writers to international conferences. They had the confidence to rub shoulders with established writers in presenting papers and taking their position.
Buche Emecheta was brought in as the lead paper presenter from UK. And you know, my graduate thesis or project was on Buche Emecheta's works, The Joys of Motherhood and Double Yoke. So I was excited when I saw Buche Emecheta at the convention, and I got to meet with her, ask some questions, And I told her, and she was excited too. So for me, that was a very great moment.
And then, of course, through this, we were able to attract a lot of attention to Anna from corporate organizations and that kind of thing. I think that was the year we were able to get some funding from Ford Foundation, Cadbury, and so many other organizations.
So Okedro Executive was noted for these very impactful and popular projects and programs that push the association into the reckoning of everybody in this country.
We also had seminars and workshops for some certain literary genres.
Anna has had several capacity building workshops for writers in Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba, and other minority languages.
I think they're going to lose all the languages if they are not careful, because people are not using the languages at all.
Sometimes it is very, very saddening to see that some books that are written in English espousing some particular culture are not even in the languages where that culture is drawn from.
Ya kamata ko da one slot ne a cikin gasar da ana take saka ta kasa ta saka harsunan gida. Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, Fulfulde, Nufe da sauransu. A ce ana ba da dama ga marubutan nan su shiga. Wannan zai taimaka musu ji daɗi a ransu su san cewa ana yi da su ba ana ta turanci ba ce kawai.
We tried to also, during my time, to push a bill to support artists and writers, but because we didn't have enough support from the legislative arm, that bill did not survive.
After the Okedro period, we had the Jedagada period that continued in the traditions of Wole Okedro in terms of eventful programs and projects. Then the period of Remiraji was a sober period where he did a lot in terms of curtailing indiscipline in the association, curtailing excesses in the association, curtailing all sorts of amorphous activities in the association. That period was able to institutionalize some operations of the association. The period of Remiraji also led to the association being regarded as a very serious association. It was a period in which the association things were taken methodically and where projects and programs were executed with funds that are available without us leaving ourselves in a situation where we're indebted to people here and there. So I think it brought a lot of calm to the association, and it brought a lot of order to the way we operated.
The Nigerian Writers Series was a program of the Remiraji Exco that I was a part of. And there has always been the idea, because the complaint for our members was the lack of access to publishing opportunities. So the association felt, well, perhaps a way of doing this would be to float a publishing outfit. And that was how the idea of the Nigerian Writers Series came about. Of course, the name harks back to the African Writers Series, which was a previous intervention in African writing by the Heinemann Group, the United Kingdom-based publishers. So we came up with the Nigerian Writers Series, and the question was where to get funding for this activity. Eventually, funding came from the Niger State government, the then governor of Niger State, Alhaji Babangida Aliyu. He was a very, very active supporter of literature, so he gave a grant for the establishment of the Nigerian Writers Series. The Anna Review is the official journal of the Association of Nigerian Authors. I don't know for sure the first time an Anna Review was published, but editions from the mid-80s exist and in our archives. So the Anna Review has been published for about the last 20 years now. There had become a debt in the publication of the Anna Review in that it had, for quite a while, it wasn't published in the early 2000s, and right up to the mid-2000s, it wasn't quite published consistently. So in the course of the Remiraji Exco, it was thought that perhaps we should rejuvenate the review.
I want us to operate like a full-blown modern and contemporary association. I want us to put form to our operations so that whatever we do is guided by some basic objective, is guided by some framework, is guided by some larger picture, which we are all working towards with methods and with calm and with progress. Those are the things I want to do within the period of my administration. And I've set out to do this by doing what we call a strategic plan.
You know, the strategic workshop is an attempt at moving the association forward. We're talking about our vision, our mission, our core values, you know, our strengths, our weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And from there, we can move forward.
Because I have looked at Anna for the past 50 years, and I've seen that we don't have a roadmap at all. We just move from one year to the other, and we do whatever we like, and as the spirit moves us, or as associations impact on us, and I think we cannot continue to run like that.
We are fortunate to have a leadership that listens, that want to see how to build a plan. There's a strategic plan taking Anna till 2022, and we're hoping that by the time all of this comes into play, Anna would be at its point. It will have its respectful place at the pedestal of leadership in the whole of literature in Africa.
We're also talking about data, you know, getting the document that will now, you know, contain the list of all the members in the association, both at home and abroad. And the president is also talking about archival materials, where, you know, those who have been in ANA, those who are late, the eminent writers, you know, that have been here before us, you know, where the young writers can go and visit.
Anna has also created literary awareness generally among our young people in our various schools. We've done that through a number of school-based outreach programs and projects over the years by focusing on what we call teen authorship scheme. And that scheme has been in operation in some other chapters and has become a core area of competence of some chapters of the association, particularly the Niger State chapter.
The first one we did was here, Literature of Model School. That was a course of young mind. That was 1997. And then later we said we should go to schools too and do for them. Meanwhile, we were also trying to organize national teen authorship addresses. So, you know, in the beginning, we were publishing them as collections, anthologies. And now we are publishing them as individuals. So you get a 15-year-old child whose book is published. You have set that child on fire, literary arts-wise.
Because when you look at it critically, it gives them pride. It gives them a sense of belonging. It elevates them in the society. It will tell him, look, you have something to offer to your society, and you should be very serious about it, and it will help them to be better citizens of this country.
Recently, it has been upped by the contributions of Yusuf Ali, SAN, who has been sponsoring Anna Yusuf Ali Literary Awareness Project and program for the past 5 years, with a sum of 3 million naira given to Anna each year to organize any literary outreach program in about 20 cities in the country. I think that project has, in a way, done a lot to project literary awareness among our schools in Nigeria.
In Imo State, the Anna Yusuf Ali reading campaign was so successful, with such a buy-in from the radio, from the media, and the government, that parents suddenly were importuning our chapter there to let their children join Anna, because they had been able to see what value the membership would give to their children.
And also being able to bring back reading connect with the Federal College of Education in Zuba, where we brought the students as junior members of ANA, inaugurated a section or a chapter of ANA Abuja at the FCT. So at every reading sessions, you'll find students from the school and as well as the secondary school in Suleja, then too, Peace and Unity School in Suleja. They were all part of our reading sessions. And that's why when you come to reading sessions while I was the chairman, hall was always filled to capacity. And people began to wonder what was the magic. It was the ability of trying to reach out to the grassroots, because every chapter should be able to impact its area of influence. If you're able to do that, you discover that ANA as an organization will really become a reference point to all literary bodies as it's supposed to be.
As far as I'm concerned, and from what I have seen, it's a very important scheme because it has a lot of benefit to the student. One, it is helping them to change their worldview. It's exposing them to learn other people's culture very early in life, and it is equally giving them the opportunity to transport their culture through their writing to other students in other communities. For example, a Kano student who is writing a short story, the story will reflect his culture. The same thing with an Easterner or Southerner from part of the country. A child of his age, if he writes, he will equally reflect his culture. So it helps in cross-cultural reorientation of the children at the very early age. And it, in my opinion, it will foster unity, it will promote tolerance, and it will equally improve their ability to use a language.
ANA, as at now, is training a crop of mentors in this area to be deployed to every corner of this country to midwife younger writers. By the time we develop or midwife younger talents and writers, we will also be able to link these writers to publishers. We'll be able to get them very good publishing deals, or sometimes we can even publish themselves under our Nigerian Writers imprint, Nigerian Writers Series imprint.
Everybody is working seriously to develop a reading culture so that you have active reading groups, active literary groups. If you give an ANA award, you have a ready market you can sell that book into.
We are also aware of the fact that the reading culture in Nigeria is pretty low for various reasons.
I remember when I won the Best Literature Award in Africa. When I went to US, the grant was for me to tour 10 states of America. You go to libraries, you see days when parents bring their children to the library. They stay there. But here, no. Maybe it's the economy that is causing our own. Because no mother will leave her office to take her child, or father will leave the office to take her child to the library and stay there all day.
They used to have local government libraries in the past, but I don't think they are, or reading rooms at least, which had some local magazines and so on. But nowadays, I don't know what libraries. When my children were growing up, at that time, there were 6 children in my house, ranging from age 3 to about 10. And I would take them every Saturday faithfully to the library in Yaba. I take them there and borrow books. And that is why you find my daughter here. She's now also a writer. And, other people that I have influenced, they write, because the reading habit is best acquired when you are still young, not when you are old and you are used to bad habits and not reading at all.
But we believe that the bottom line is that books are not that accessible to people. Books are a bit expensive.
People are looking for money to feed right now. If you don't feed, how will you go and start buying literature book? When you have not fed your child, the child knows the stomach. It's when the stomach is full, then you start looking for extras.
Sometimes I get slightly upset when I find writers and literary people with the attitude of, oh, Nigerians are not sophisticated, that's why they don't read book. Nigerians are not, keep blaming the person, because blaming them for your own inability to create a product that the person will see value in and buy.
But when you have young ones, picking interest in the association, in what we do, in reading and writing, then that means there's hope for our nation.
And that is why a body like Anna is relevant in helping to propagate the reading culture.
We need to engage more aggressively in programs and projects to get more people interested, particularly young people. Now, these activities and programs, they need to be funded.
Most common problem, I think the only problem that the association has, that has in a way crippled the reach it could achieve, is finance. That has been a perennial problem of the association. Year in, year out, that is what we get faced with when we talk of doing one program or project or the other.
For me, Anna as a body, first and foremost, should document its membership and focus on financial membership. Ensure that if you say you are a member of Anna, you should be able to pay your dues, because no association runs without dues.
Now, part of the problem of the association would be the structure of the association, where you have state chapters that are not always pulling their weight, as it were. So it's important to take a closer look at the criteria for setting up a state chapter, for example. I believe the Constitution says that there's a specific number of members, of dues-paying members, that form a chapter. So these things the chapters need to be encouraged, but then these things also need to be enforced.
Then when that is done, there are several ways of introducing the business side to running an association, so that the association can have some regular source of income, then can also now network for funds.
Art has never been able to pay for itself. It has to look for patronage. So that patronage must be cultivated. That is, Anna needs to be able to employ people who can solicit for grants for the association.
The issue for this support has given our association a kind of stability. When you talk of stability, you are sure that a fund comes at a particular period of the year, at a particular time, which you can carry out a project with that fund within a particular period. So this regularity of funding and regularity of project is what an association such as Anna needs. When you have a multiple of such, believe you me, the creativity will flow to design projects and programs that will impact very well on the literary life of this country.
Dole a yi tunani akwai marubuta a cikin 'yan siyasa, akwai marubuta a cikin masu kuɗi, akwai marubuta a ma'aikatan gwamnati. Su za ta dinga nemowa waye taɓa rubutu, waye kaza, a kira shi. In ma ba zai samu dama ba, ya yi girma ba zai zo ba, a je inda yake. Turan kai dai gashi mun zo muna neman tallafi, zami kaza, a zo da plan mai kyau a bashi. Da yawa wasu abin da yake kashe abubuwan an kawo proposal a samu kuɗin ba a yi ba. Wannan yana discouraging din mutane da suke ba da tallafin su ko gwamnati ko kaza, ba transparency da sauransu.
We have several members who, if they decide to even put in their small quota, it doesn't need to be ₦1 million. If maybe, let's just put 100 or maybe 1,000 prominent ANA members decide to put just 100,000 naira into ANA, or maybe even 50,000 naira every year, the sort of projects that we would be doing would be such that would leave everybody envious.
Nobody is really minding the affairs of the association on a full-time basis. Everybody in the association is there on an ad hoc basis. Even the association does not have staff. I must tell you, I don't think the association has the only staff that we can point at, that I know as we speak, that the association has, is just a clerk who is paid to stay at the National Secretariat of the Association in Lagos and receive mail and do some other basic duty. And one other challenge is that we do not have an asset. We do not have physical property. The association has no secretariat, what is named as I talk to you. We don't have a place that is a modern office where we will run our affairs. We don't even have properties that can generate income for us, despite having a large expanse of land that has been given to us in 1985, I think.
This was way back when the late General Mambasa was the FCT minister, because he was also a writer who really loved the association, and he gave this large piece of land, about 52 hectares of land, to Anna.
No, he took us to the land. It was beautiful land. You know, if you stood on the edge, it was on the edge of a cliff or something. You just saw it. It was like if we haven't been to paradise, but we imagine what paradise would be. But it was a beautiful, beautiful terrain, very beautiful landscape.
I was small when it was given to us. It was vast. In fact, trees were planted and we wrote our names. The then ANA members, we wrote, all of us wrote our names around the trees. Each tree bore our names. If that building had been put up, we would be making money from there, because from the onset, it wasn't only for conference hall. We were to have hotels there, we were to have library, we were to have guest rooms where Anna would make money.
Supposed to have a very big place where people will come, chapters will have their offices and all that. A place that will be like a rallying point where to be like a tourist attraction for writers from all over the world.
Now, since the allocation of the land, it had been fallow. 1986, nothing was done on that land. Over all these years that one ANA president came and went, nothing was done in terms of development.
For a very long time, they didn't come to a general consensus of what could be done with the land. Because if you have to deal or to make use or to expand or to work on a collective asset that belongs to many people, you have to get consensus of opinion.
And at some point, a previous ANA executive decided that it would be good to enter into a development partnership with a developer.
I mean, agreement was reached that Home Security was going to develop 60% of the land there, while he would still give ANA, I'm talking about, I think 2001 or so. That was when that agreement was signed. He would take 40% of it to himself and give ANA 11 million naira, and then develop 60% of the land for ANA.
Unfortunately, the developer did not meet up to the terms of the development, and let's say relations broke down between the association, and it became a matter for the courts.
Eventually, that was around 2008. We had to now investigate on why that development had not taken place all this while. Not one block, cement block or whatever, is on that land. How can we go on like that? No, we're not going to accept whatever. We told him that we were going to revoke. The next thing we would hear was a case at the High Court here in Abuja. We entered into appearance and we entered our defense, and the case dragged for over 3 years. And eventually, 2012, December, the judgment was given and the Home Security's case was dismissed. The only thing that we couldn't escape with was payment of damages for breach of contract. Another stunning revelation of that case was the 86.9 hectares had shrunk, had been reduced to 73 8.5 hectares.
So along the line, we had that the government had taken over the land because there was a law that any undeveloped land in the FCT will be, the CFO will be revoked.
And if I'm grateful for anything to Nasir, it's because through this person we're able to get our CFO back, get our land back.
The land was restored to us, but not in the same size that General Mamambaza gave us.
We made all efforts to make sure that what was left was in our hands. We were able to, for the first time, collect the certificate of occupancy, which now gave us a full legal right to that land.
Eventually, by the time we build that village, which we have built in our minds, but which we are yet to put on the ground, we will name it Mamajia Vasa Writers Village. So in that way, Vasa is already immortalized in our memory and in our history. If you go to read Vasa's inaugural speech, when he gave that land, you will find out, you will see what he was saying, that look, he knows that this place is going to be where everybody will come to converge in the future of this country. So I want to give writers a space in this future, and that was why he gave that land.
The Association of Nigerian Authors is about the very few associations that have survived over 30 years, particularly in Africa.
ANA is like the proverbial barracks. You know, they say soldier come, soldier go, barracks remain. There's so much fire in its members, and there's so much belief, not just in those leading, but even in those who are being groomed up.
So we are on a journey. It's a journey of success, it's a journey of progress, and it's a journey into the future. And the future is not bleak for ANA. The future is very bright.
Whether you call it SONA or ANA, it was still the same association of people who had the same vision, people who knew what they wanted out of life, and they were out to make sure that it became a reality. Well, that kind of spirit doesn't ever die. So I think whatever happens, ANA will live forever.
Stood up for us in this contest for dignity, answered those who spoke with bullets and bombs. Still he stood in their way, wielding nothing but words, the shield of conviction, his faith in ideas. Tell them to be silent. It is this man that has passed. And in his wake, let the sun rise to the sound of a flute, to the steady beat of an unbroken drum, to the thunder of guns, to the chanting of warriors. Enyo, Enyala, that death may know it has swallowed an eagle, Ugonabo Gidi, but it will never swallow his voice. Nine, it is true. Ngwajabe. Nugwamao, Dikikalion, Odogwamad, Ngwajabe, Jabemudo. Go in peace.